Nothing about them begins where it is supposed to, and that is the first thing that feels wrong. The land looks familiar, the language feels ancient, the stories seem complete, yet the origin never settles, never lands cleanly, as if the beginning was quietly moved and no one noticed. For centuries, the Greeks were described as rivals, as inheritors, as the visible layer on top of something older and unnamed. But the deeper the record goes, the less convincing that idea becomes, and the more unsettling another possibility feels. Long before marble temples or recorded words, the ground itself was already crowded with lives, with continuity, with memory that did not reset. That continuity is easy to ignore because it does not announce itself. It does not conquer. It persists. Archaeological layers blur instead of breaking. Settlements rebuild on top of themselves without interruption. Tools evolve rather than vanish. Graves change shape, but not meaning. And yet the old narrative insists on movement, replacement, arrival, because movement is easier to explain than endurance. The problem is that endurance leaves traces that refuse to disappear. The earliest villages in the Aegean do not look like temporary footholds, they look like home. They expand slowly, adapt patiently, and survive collapses that should have erased them. When climate shifted, when trade routes failed, when entire systems elsewhere fell silent, these communities bent without breaking. And that bending becomes the first unanswered question. If the Greeks came from somewhere else, where is the rupture that should mark their arrival? It does not appear. Instead, there is a long, almost uncomfortable familiarity between the land and the people shaping it. The myths later tell of heroes arriving, of founders stepping onto shores already named, but myths often exaggerate motion because motion feels dramatic, and drama distracts from the quieter truth beneath. As writing finally appears, it does not announce a new population. It records an old one trying to remember itself. The language encoded in the earliest scripts does not float from nowhere. It sits awkwardly on the page, carrying remnants of older speech, absorbing local names, refusing to fully standardize. That resistance hints at depth. When palaces rise and fall, when centralized power collapses, the people do not vanish with it. They scatter, reorganize, return. The so-called Dark Age is not dark because people disappeared, but because the systems that made them visible failed. Pottery styles fragment, trade shrinks, writing pauses. Yet the bones beneath the soil tell a calmer story of continuity, of families staying close to familiar ground. This is where expectation and evidence begin to argue with each other. The expectation says replacement. The evidence suggests persistence. Later invasions are recorded, but they layer on top of something already resilient. Dialects diversify instead of resetting. Religious practices absorb rather than erase. Even the gods feel local, tied to springs, mountains, winds, places known long before their names were fixed. Each generation inherits not just land, but habit, and habit is stubborn. Modern science eventually enters the argument, quietly at first, because it has learned that origins are sensitive territory. When genetic patterns are examined, they do not show the clean break of a mass arrival. They show something messier and more revealing, long-term stability with limited outside input. Small pulses of movement, yes, but no overwhelming replacement. The majority of ancestry traces back through the same region across thousands of years. That finding unsettles old frameworks built on migration as explanation. It suggests that the Greeks were not a people who suddenly appeared, but a people who slowly became recognizable, shaped by the same land that shaped their predecessors. The implications grow heavier the longer one sits with them. If identity formed through continuity rather than conquest, then the roots of Greek culture sink deeper than its classical surface. The art, the politics, the philosophy may feel revolutionary, but revolutions require something solid to push against. That solidity came from millennia of lived experience embedded in place. The sea did not invite departure so much as connection. Trade brought ideas without erasing identity. Foreign influences arrived as layers, not replacements, and were filtered through a population confident enough to adapt without dissolving. Even periods of supposed invasion leave behind surprisingly small genetic footprints compared to their narrative weight. The story of waves crashing over an empty shore begins to feel like a projection rather than a record. What replaces it is quieter and harder to dramatize, people staying, adjusting, surviving. At the midpoint of this realization, when the old map no longer fits the terrain, another layer of analysis begins to circulate, discussed in places where lineage is treated as evidence rather than pride. Genealogy appears again at the edge of this understanding, not to resolve it, but to underline its weight. If the origin was not an arrival but a continuity, then the real beginning is still beneath the surface, still speaking through the land, and still waiting for those willing to accept that the most powerful histories are the ones that never needed to start. The reframing does not deny movement or influence, it rearranges their importance. Movement becomes seasoning rather than foundation. Influence becomes conversation rather than takeover. The familiar emphasis on origins shifts from elsewhere to here, from arrival to persistence. That shift creates discomfort because it removes the clean beginning. Without a dramatic start, identity feels less owned, less heroic, more inherited. An inheritance carries responsibility. It suggests that culture is not created from nothing, but accumulated through patience, compromise, and memory. The land remembers even when people forget. When modern borders and labels are peeled away, the underlying continuity remains visible in skeletal measurements, in burial customs, in the distribution of ancient DNA markers that refuse to scatter. Each piece alone might be dismissed. Together, they form a pressure that reshapes the question itself. Not where did the Greeks come from, but how long have they been there? That question is harder to contain because its answer stretches further back than written certainty. It reaches into periods labeled prehistoric only because writing had not yet arrived to interrupt them. The absence of interruption becomes the evidence. Continuity is not loud. It does not announce itself with monuments. It persists quietly until someone finally notices that it never left. The final tension emerges here, because this realization does not just alter Greek history, it challenges a broader habit of explaining cultures as products of sudden replacement. It suggests that deep roots are more common than admitted, and that many identities may be older, steadier, less dramatic than the stories told about them. That possibility unsettles comfortable timelines. It implies that the truth was never hidden, only overlooked because it did not shout. As the layers align, the conclusion never fully closes. It lingers. The Greeks are not an echo of elsewhere. They are a continuation, shaped but not overwritten. Ancient not because of myth, but because of persistence. Genealogy appears again at the edge of this understanding, not to resolve it, but to underline its weight. If the origin was not an arrival but a continuity, then the real beginning is still beneath the surface, still speaking through the land, and still waiting for those willing to accept that the most powerful histories are the ones that never needed to start.